Iran and the United States are preparing for a firepower confrontation battle. Plans are being drawn from Washington to Tehran. Iranian Supreme leader is in the eye of the storm and is preparing for the worst-case scenario, handing over his powers to his trusted aide.
Inside Iran, its elite forces, navy and army are preparing for war. As US warships encircle Iran, the country is testing its own naval air defense missile, dubbed the Sayyad 3G. It's designed to counter multiple aerial threats. The clock is ticking for Tehran as Trump's self-imposed 10-day deadline nears its end. Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has sprung into action, preparing for the worst-case scenario, just in case the US targets him or he's captured by American forces. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has reportedly finalized a succession plan. Iran's Supreme Leader has named 4 layers of succession for each of the military command and government roles that he personally appoints. Khamenei has also passed a major chunk of his authority to his close confidant and national security chief, Ali Larijani. Larijani now maintains effective control over key security, military and diplomatic operations, sidelining President Masoud Pezeshkian. Larijani is a key player in Khamenei's pyramid of power. He oversaw the brutal crackdown on protests that peaked during early January. The former IRGC commander, Larijani, is Ayatollah Khamenei's go-to man when it comes to crushing dissent. But away from the thick walls of Iran's power corridors, protests are slowly re-emerging. According to the Institute of the Study of War, at least 5 large-scale anti-government protests have taken place across Iran in recent days. They took place in the capital Tehran and the provinces of Fars, Esfahan, Shiraz and Mazandaran. Khamenei's contingency plan is designed to ensure the survival of the Islamic Republic on 2 fronts, with one focused on thwarting American and Israeli aggression and the other on silencing any dissent within the country. Iran has stationed its ballistic missiles near the Iraq border and its southern border, bringing Israel and US military bases in West Asia in the line of fire. And as soon as war breaks out, special forces units of the police, intelligence agents and battalions of the IRGC's Basij militia will be deployed on the streets of major cities.
It is a bad feeling, but we are not afraid of war.
The USS Gerald R. Ford is closing in on Iran. The USS Abraham Lincoln is already positioned near the country. Both carriers have unmatched naval firepower. They are accompanied by guided missile destroyers, littoral combat ships, and around 150 aircraft collectively.
I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated? Why under this sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do, and yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
Trump's warnings, Khamenei's defiance, and diplomacy on the sidelines. With each passing hour, both sides are bringing their best guns to the battle. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
Mr. Chris Doyle is the Director of Council for Arab-British Understanding and the current lead spokesperson for the organization. He is now joining us live from London. Mr. Doyle, it's good to see you and thank you very much for your time. President Trump has put the world on tenterhooks as to what he will do to Iran because he's not been clear on what he really plans to do in Iran. There are ongoing talks in Saudi Arabia. Those talks have not yielded any results whatsoever. What do you think is going to happen in the coming month or so?
Well, I wish there was an easy and clear answer to that, but there isn't. President Trump specializes in ensuring that everybody has to keep on guessing as to what he does next. Now, those talks are not over. And I think there is a reasonable assumption that in part the buildup of American military presence in West Asia with the aircraft carriers, the submarines, the destroyers, all the aircraft is about trying to pressure the Iranian regime into realizing that they have no other option but to agree to a deal on America's terms. That said, if you do have all of this very expensive kit in the region, the chances of going to conflict does, of course, rise. You can have it by accident, even if you don't mean to by intent. And, of course, questions will be asked of President Trump. If he's not able to achieve a deal, are you going to go to war? You've threatened this. And therefore, he may get himself into a situation where the talks are in stasis, they're paralyzed, they're not going forward, and that there is no other way out of this but to engage in strikes. Now, those strikes could be all manner of things. We could have some strikes just to build up that pressure on the Iranian regime again. It could be about saying, look, here's 24 hours of strikes, more of this can come your way unless you agree to a deal. And it could be, though, for a far more protracted war that could take weeks. There's the firepower in the region now to be able to do that. But any military engagement carries huge risks in terms of death of people on all sides, of civilians, to the risks to the global economy, the interruption to energy supplies, both oil and gas, to huge refugee flows, to destabilizing the region. Who knows what? You open up all sorts of possibilities. So it's a very high stakes poker game that President Trump and the Iranian leadership are engaged in.
Mr. Doyle, let me ask you this. Now that Iran has been very steadfast in their position, they say that they're not perturbed, they're ready for war. Now the protests have re-emerged again in Iran. What do you think, in your view, is stoking these anti-government protests in Iran?
Well, we've seen these protests that kicked off in December, and let's not forget that there were protests against the Iranian authorities in the past as well on so many occasions. And in part, that was a cost of living protest. We saw, many Iranians go out on the streets because the economy is in crisis. And of course, that in part is because of American-led sanctions. Of course, there's other issues, the corruption of the Iranian regime, the way in which it runs the economy has to be thrown into that equation as well. But of course, when you get protests that are then met with force from the Iranian authorities, that actually exacerbates the situation. You have funerals, you have families grieving, anger, it spills out and spreads. I don't think it takes very much to push this. Then, of course, you get the argument that external powers, notably Israel and the United States, are accused of this, are stoking these protests up. But what I would say is one should be very careful of the argument that US military strikes will somehow aid those protesters. I'm not sure how that actually works. You could actually see that those strikes, they may knock out the electricity, they may knock out all sorts of systems that are crucial to the survival of the civilian population. So it's not at all clear that strikes will necessarily weaken that regime to such a situation it collapses, and then all of a sudden you get a replacement authority that is working in favor of the people. I think that's a huge leap. So one has to be really cautious about making these sorts of assumptions.
Mr. Chris Doyle, we'll have to leave it there. Good to see you. We'll talk next time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.